Hi you guys, this is Rachel here, the Modern Shaman. Thanks for being with me for another YouTube Q&A video this week. If you are new to this channel, I always recommend that you go to my website and just check it out. If you like this video afterwards, kind of see what I'm about, find ways to get connected with me on my website. You can book sessions with me here in my office in San Antonio, Texas, or of course online. All of that's available, as well as my masterclass teaching curriculum for the sacred intuitive arts and for spiritual entrepreneurship if you're interested in taking your gifts and sharing those with the world. I also have an upcoming event that I want to remind you guys of. I am hosting a body and soul retrieval. It's a 3-hour event here in my home on April 14th, and it's going to be phenomenal. I am working with a fellow practitioner of mine who does biodecoding and a special language of how to speak to the body. And she is a beautiful practitioner and teacher. I've worked with her for years, and we're teaming up to do a soul retrieval and a body retrieval all in one. And if you're interested in that, you can sign up on my website or through my newsletter. You can reach out to me anyway on social media, any ways to connect with me personally through messaging. You can reach out to find more details about that event. Okay, let's get into the question of this week. It says, hello there. I wanted to ask you a question about removing blockages. I feel like I don't matter. I have always been quiet and passive in my personality and feel like this leads to people taking advantage of me. I am a nice guy, but this doesn't seem to work in my favor. How do I remove the blockage of feeling so insignificant? My compassion and heart goes out for you, because you are absolutely significant. If you are on this earth, really everything you do has significance because it makes a difference. It has impact. This is just the law of cause and effect, right? It is so scientifically basic that everything we do has impact because it's causal and it creates an effect. Even if we don't see it, even if no one says anything about it or your story's never told. I mean, 3 generations from now, much of what we have done and the stories and the life that we have lived, no one will remember, right? That's the language of it. Like, we won't have the ego to sustain. It won't matter in that way, but it does matter in terms of the impact that the small things that you do have a ripple effect because they're all causal. There is cause and effect to everything. So me speaking in this video, me using my hands, me talking with a certain tone to my voice, all of it, which is seemingly insignificant, has impact. That is just a scientific fact. So you scientifically have significance. You do. And really, when we look at stories of people, or we sit down and we think about the things that have really changed our life, they may be totally insignificant to someone else. Even in one day, somebody may say to you that they like something about you. Oh, I like your smile. Oh, you have such a pretty smile. Or wow, your teeth are really white. Something so simple as a compliment. But it can shift your day. And when that shifts your energy of the day, you may become better at your job. You may become nicer to the people around you. And then that may shift their day. Maybe they were literally going to go into court that day because they were having a separation hearing from their spouse and they were going to decide custody. And that day worked in their favor because you gave them a compliment, the ripple, I don't have to explain this. We know how this all works. You do have impact. Absolutely. What you're talking about is an emotional and psychological feeling. A judgment on yourself that I don't have significance. It's not true, but scientifically, But I will share with you how, from a shamanic practitioner and a healing perspective, I would work with you. And this would be true of really healing and removing all blockages. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, I don't have that issue, we all have some issue. And what I'm going to share with you is the same protocol that I would use, generally speaking, as I'm doing any sort of blockage removal. So the first thing that I would do, and I would call this step one, is I would look at any sort of visual representation of where this started from. So me being me, I would use my clairvoyance. I would go into a type of shamanic trance where I just relax my body. That sounds fancy, but I just relax. And it doesn't take me 2 seconds. I've been doing this for long enough to just move into that state of receiving information. We call this shamanic energy melding. I would meld with your body and I would ask it simply, where did this sensation or this feeling of insignificance originate from? Sometimes this moves me into past life. Sometimes it moves me into childhood trauma. Sometimes it moves me into a relationship where someone cheated on you. It just depends on where that originated in you. So that's the first thing, is I would say do some excavating in your soul. Sit with yourself, meditate on that question, and wait for the answer to show itself. Now, because I'm clairvoyant, typically it shows itself in imagery, and I get very distinctive images of how that is blocking you, where it's blocking you. So I may see a hand strangling your throat. I may see a knife in the back if it has to do with betrayal. I may see a vision of a different life where you were a child and you were abused, where you were in poverty, or your parents died and you became an orphan and felt insignificant in the world. Whatever the story is, there is always an originating trauma that needs to be released. Once it's found and you go through that excavation to find that object, then the second step is the psychic surgery, or the multidimensional release of the trauma. So this may show itself to you by feelings. It may show itself to you by imagery, depending on how you receive information from the non-physical realm. And from there, you would release it. I would release it if I'm doing a session with you. So if I see arms, hands around you, then I would pull the arms off using a psychic, what I call a body double, or imagining, if you're not in front of me and I'm doing this work remotely, then I would see your spirit body, or I would use my own body as a body double. And I would simply remove those hands, give them permission to leave. I would, if there's a rope around your throat, I would cut the rope, do some cord cutting. If there's a knife in your back, I would pull the knife out, seal your body back up, doing psychic surgery. So I would perform a type of metaphysical release for that symbolic image. If it is a past life, I would detach the memory from your DNA, and I would go in and essentially ask that memory to release you from the trauma that is still impacting you. I would say thank you, make peace with it, and release. If there are people involved here, I would ask myself, who do I need to forgive? If this is someone else or myself, then I would make peace. It's another way of saying I would forgive myself or forgive the others and come to a place of understanding. If you understand the event, saying, I see and I understand the validity of why I had that experience. I gained knowledge from it. I gained wisdom from it. This is my takeaway. I've made peace with that. I've made peace with myself and all others in the circumstance, and I am free to go, and I release you. And from that space, there is psychological release. There is psychic release if you are cutting the cords or doing psychic surgery. So you have released the psychic blockage and the emotional trauma. Then step 3 that I would do is I would essentially move into a cleansing time. Now, sometimes this is done with ceremonial fire ceremony where you burn something that represents, or you write down your feelings and you burn it. Sometimes it's done with sacred bathing. So you move into kind of like a baptismal chamber or a bath or a washing of the hands, of the face, of the body, wherever you felt like you were storing that trauma. And sometimes it's done through like a primal scream, getting your voice back, where you feel like you've repressed a lot of expression and feelings. And so you scream it out, you chant it out. But primal screaming, I think, is the best way to relinquish a sense of repressed expression. And then the fourth step is that we would move into empowerment. And I would walk you through a type of empowered body work. So typically this is standing. I'm gonna, when you think of, think of like a lot of Pacific Islanders do this type of like chanting where, sorry, I'm out of my little screen, but where you're standing, right? Your hips are here and you're kind of like in this stance of a posture of strength, like a sumo wrestler would squat. So we move into a body posture where we are empowered physically. We feel like we're in the fullness of our strength. Typically, I would stomp. I'm doing this if I am working remotely, and if I have you on the phone or on a Zoom conference, or if you're in front of me, I'm having you do this. Take ownership of your own form. And then we're typically chanting. Now, sometimes this is like fire breath, where we're breathing out like a dragon, like really like pulling from the solar plexus energy, engaging that core, which has the strength of the soul. This is who I am. This is what I came here to do. This is my voice. This is my power. So we may make some I am statements. A lot of times this is channeled. So depending on where you relinquished your voice or repressed it, the statements would come through and I would speak them, and I would ask you to speak them until they feel true for you, until you hear your original voice speaking with a sense of depth in your tone. You're not speaking up here like a child voice from your inner child, or you're not speaking with passivity or passiveness, if that's a word, where your voice is really waspy or has a lot of air in it, like it can be moved. Instead, you're speaking from your sense of truth. And we move here, we stand in that empowerment. Sometimes if this has been generational and you are healing generational curses or generational trauma that's very deep-seated, we may do a planting ceremony where you take a seed, you plant something new, and literally create a new family tree. This is symbolic, metaphoric, but this is also physical. And it takes hold when we do something in the physical, manifest plane. And then, so you plant something literally outside, you get that seed, you stand on it, so you stomp that earth and compact that ground, and then you stand above that tree and you speak in that same language of your own truth. Messages that kind of create something new going forward. Oftentimes, like I said, this is channeled, or I help you create this, and you take your own progression as a new force in life, moving forward with a new sense of power. So that's how I would remove it. Those steps, kind of like starting at the beginning with the trauma, doing the psychic surgery of clearing it out, going back, forgiving, emotional release, making room for that, be it primal screaming, soul retrieval, somehow where we are getting that energy cleared out and back into the life, and then moving into either some type of ceremony or stance that takes on empowerment to the self and the soul. So I hope that's a blessing to you. Obviously, I do this through sessions. There's probably a lot of practitioners that offer shamanic healings. If you've never had a shamanic healing or clearing, it is way more involved. It's not passive by any means. It's very active. But you can do this yourself. You can. You can heal yourself. In essence, if you feel like you need someone to guide you through it, follow your intuitive nudging. I have had that myself. even as a shaman, there have been things in my life that have been very deep-seated from past life trauma that I have literally been told, go to a practitioner for this. Go to someone that does hypnosis. Go to someone who does sacred anger work, whatever it may be. But the steps are all there, and I hope that you feel encouraged, acknowledged, and empowered. Okay, I'm going to sign off here. Blessings, you guys. I'll be back next week with another video.